America's largest state fair is a dense labyrinth of foods that no one should eat, legally questionable rides, and oddly specific livestock competitions. And every year the media shows you the same old cheerful coverage. But after researching this thing for over a month straight, I realized that the Minnesota State Fair isn't just a fair, it's a literal city, with its own laws, its own economy, and one of the most carefully engineered psychological machines in America. And somehow, no one's really explained how it works. The Minnesota State Fair is a lot, so for week 1 of my month-long deep dive, I started with what brings in the most money at the fair: the food.
Our fair is a food-eating fair, in case you haven't noticed.
The Minnesota State Fair literally invented the all-you-can-eat buffet, but today there are over 500 food options from over 300 vendors.
Every year, something just doesn't drop over it. It takes a running leap over the edge, and it's horrible.
That's Kevin Kling. He voiced over a documentary that PBS made about the fair.
State Fair Stories.
Kevin will be the perfect person to confirm that the fair, in fact, operates from an economic standpoint.
I don't really view it from an economic standpoint. I view it from being a storyteller. I view it from this fact that it is part of our story, and we really do get to see our people, and everybody smells like grease. It's great.
Grease is one of the engines that powers this economic machine because the fair has become known for its food.
People who love the state fair look forward to all year.
Yeah, the new foods, they came out this morning.
Look, I know everyone on YouTube does this, but I'm going to the state fair to show you these new foods and prove just how ridiculous things are getting. I'm gonna get a shot of this. We just got here, it's 10 a.m. and this line is over an hour and a half long. Okay, so this is the end of that line. It's just for donuts. And there's over 80 foods on a stick. Pizza on a stick, alligator on a stick, spaghetti and meatballs dipped in garlic batter and deep fried on a stick.
Yeah, you can drop anything in the lard. I'm fine with it.
Oh yeah, and almost everything is deep fried. Deep fried ice cream, deep fried ranch, a 4-ounce hamburger patty with cheese, pickles, and special sauce sandwiched between 2 deep fried peanut butter and grape jelly Uncrustables. Also, there's like a bunch of drinks too. And 26,000 gallons of milk are drank from the all-you-can-drink milk stand. Yeah, the milk stand makes $1 million a year.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they charge $3 a cup.
That's good news for the lactose intolerant. That's for sure.
The fair has its own police force, recruiting officers from over 65 other police forces, its own fire department, and a rotating butter sculpture of an actual person behind what appears to be bulletproof glass for obvious reasons.
There's still a sense of history and a sense of being who we are.
The Minnesota State Fair is consistently ranked as the most beloved fair, but there's one thing that bugs me about fair rankings. America's largest state fair, despite what Google tells you, is not the Texas State Fair. The Texas State Fair draws about 2.4 million visitors. Minnesota's a little less than that at almost 2 million visitors. But Texas has 24 days to do that. Minnesota does it in 12. So if you were to drop into the fair on a random day, Minnesota's would be almost twice as big. These people aren't just visitors though, they are visitors eager to spend money. This creates a literal Super Bowl-sized economy, generating a $300 million impact. So by week 2, I needed to learn about the Minnesota State Fair history. To find out, I met with Jacob Rorem.
Good morning, Chris.
Hey, thank you. Good morning. A historian who has spent years studying the Minnesota State Fair.
I mean, one of the things, the things I've gotten to learn about the fair doing my job is that there is no stable fair. It's always changing.
It began in 1854, a few years before Minnesota became a state.
So it was a territorial fair to begin with, not a state fair.
But over time, it became something bigger, way bigger. It became a mirror for what people wanted, and what they wanted kept changing.
It's always changing. I mean, maybe the grandstand, once that was built, it's been there over 100 years, But the grandstand always used to have horse races. If you look on like Google Maps, the grandstand is not perfectly aligned east-west. It's slightly at an angle. And that was to give viewers a better view of the last stretch of the horse track.
The biggest name in that era? Dan Patch. He was a horse.
But it was massively popular to the point where, one of the most successful horses in it became this like national celebrity. Dan Patch, which is a street name at the fairgrounds, was a famous racehorse.
What happened after the horse racing?
It used to have aviation shows.
What are aviation shows?
Aviation at one point was just something people didn't see much of, especially when it was new. It was just like, that was a spectacle to see. And the fair has always tried to bring in some sort of level of spectacle.
And then someone died. We don't have to get into that, but I guess it's worth mentioning. After that came race cars.
It used to have race car, races, and we don't do any of that anymore. So like even that's something that seems so solid and continuous has changed over the years.
And now it's the Jonas Brothers, or whoever else is on tour. That shift from horse racing to musical megastars isn't just a fun footnote, it's a blueprint. The fair is built to change.
I do think just what I've learned about the history, it definitely shows that they're constantly pivoting. There's obviously always a need to adapt and to change and to bring in something new and to try something new.
It's how you end up with TikTok famous food trends parked across from a fine arts show.
Obviously livestock is still a huge part, and agriculture is still a huge part of the fair, but I think that's changed as again, our population has changed. We're a more urban population, nationally than we used to be. There's fewer people that are working on farms directly than there used to be. So, again, the fair is adapting to changes and continuing to do what it can to be relevant.
Here's where things get interesting. The land that the Minnesota State Fair sits on, it's owned by the state, but the state doesn't control it. And many of the buildings are owned by the actual vendors themselves, but they're never guaranteed back year over year. Instead, all of the authority belongs to a group called the Minnesota State Agriculture Society. So they literally need to make money to survive. It kind of reminds me of a casino. The layout is intentionally overwhelming, vendors are stacked wall to wall. You turn one corner and there's big fat bacon, turn another and you're watching dogs jump into a pool. Like a casino, you're free to leave at any time. But why would you? The food is endless, the entertainment is constant, and the next distraction is just 10 feet away. And just like a casino, the house always wins. By week 3, I needed real answers about the fair's financial engine, so I called Nick Halter, an actual reporter who covers the State Fair's money trail for a living. This time, for real, the perfect person to confirm that the fair is an economic driver and not just a cultural thing.
I think, first and foremost, it's a cultural thing. But I think secondarily, it's like it's a big economic driver for 12 days. People are coming with big wads of cash because they budgeted for this, people are ready to spend a lot.
And they do. Vendors at the fair move serious money, especially the heavyweights. Nick reports on the top 10 earners every year.
The vendors that do the most business are typically kind of your staple foods. Mouthtrap cheese curds, they're over $1 million. Pronto Pups was over $2 million in 2023. French fries, $1.4 million. All you can drink milk, which is kind of wild to me. They do $1.4 million.
But one vendor rules them all. Sweet Martha's Cookies.
She makes as much money as the next 3 vendors combined. It's crazy what the Sweet Martha's has been built into.
But what's most interesting about Sweet Martha's is that it almost didn't happen.
The name is legit. She's this very sweet lady. Her and her husband, Gary, decades ago, wanted to start a booth at the State Fair, and they wanted to do a frozen yogurt stand. And the fair was like, no, we already have frozen yogurt here. Why don't you try chocolate chip cookies? And they had never made chocolate chip cookies before, and they just had one of those tiny little booths on the boulevard basically with a couple of small ovens, and it was a hit, and it grew to what it is now, which is $4.5 million, $5 million a year in cookie sales and 5 booths. But it's sort of serendipitous that the fair was don't do the frozen yogurt thing.
But the fair doesn't let you just sell cookies and walk away.
The fair takes 15% of your sales. That's a flat fee for vendors. So they're kind of invested in you being successful, so that they want you to succeed.
And if you're not successful, you won't be back, because the fair signs contracts with every single vendor for only 1 year.
You can see why they're kind of compelled to find a new vendor at some point. It's just, you don't get many opportunities for 2 million people over 12 days coming through. And it's it can be just if you hit it right, it can be such a huge thing for your business.
But that's just the stuff that's widely reported. There's another layer to understanding the fair.
It's been reported that 1,800 items were turned into lost and found last year at the state fair.
John O'Sullivan, the guy behind 1 Minute Tours, probably the most recognizable Minnesotan on TikTok, has spent years understanding the deeper layer to the fair.
The state fair is a natural place for me to go, so the first year I was here, I went to the state fair every day and I released 4 videos a day for every day of the state fair. Where is the best place to poop at the state fair?
And after years of documenting the weirdest parts of the fair, John has learned how the business really works. Seriously, this time. I promise he's gonna break it down.
The vendors don't pay rent, they pay percentage of revenue. So the incentive is there for the vendors to lie about how much they make. And so to keep them honest, they have auditors come through and just take little sample sizes. We have an audit. Look behind me. See that guy right there? He is a state fair auditor. It's something that you only see if you're really looking for it, but these guys are quiet sharks making sure that the state fair's powerhouse economy continues to operate. This is a strange way to do audits. They are relying heavily on the honor system, on honesty, right? Because if these auditors are just coming out, and you can see they stay there for about 10 minutes and then they move on to the next thing.
And that's when we discovered something, a number that nobody seemed to be talking about.
So like this is their financial report. They have the legislative auditor puts out audit every year of the state fairs. This is their 2024 annual report right here. And it's a lot of fun stuff in there with pictures and all that, but you have to go all the way to the bottom to get to the boring stuff, or interesting stuff, if you ask me.
On this report, $16 million is listed as a line item for sales. If that's the fair's 15% cut, that means that state fair visitors spend over $100 million on food and drinks. If you divide that by 2 million, the number of visitors at the state fair, that means that the average person is spending about $50 at the state fair just on food and drinks.
Yeah, oh, and cash transactions, cash is king at the state fair.
Every single vendor daily comes to this building right here and deposits their 15% commission at the concessionaire check-in. That means millions of dollars in cash go right through that door. And that's when week 4 hit, and I stumbled into something I didn't expect: the media's influence on the fair. I reached out to the Minnesota State Fair for an interview. They followed up, then ultimately declined, which is weird because the traditional media, they're everywhere. The 4 major TV stations, Public Radio and the Star Tribune, they don't just cover the fair, they broadcast from inside of it. They get access to the fair in a way that nobody else can. And I know because I was a part of it.
Chris Parr is here, right here. He is our creative director.
It's hard not to think that this has some kind of influence on the coverage, however soft that connection may be.
And with so many different ways to get to the fairgrounds, there's really not a reason to not see you out here in Falcon Heights. I'm Ian Russell, KARE 11 News.
Being independent now, it's frustrating to be denied. But when you go to the fair and you're among the people, it's easy to get sucked in. And actually, I always get cheese curd tacos here. They're my fave.
We do have the best state fair. Like, we do have this incredible thing that is just rare.
And this is a great way to celebrate both the state and to sort of prove that, you know, Minnesota has something awesome to share.
So I think that is one of the things that feels so good about this time, is that we all embrace the same moment at the same time in such a seemingly divisive world.
I went looking for a crack in the system, but if somebody has to be somewhat sketchy with millions in cash, I'm kinda okay with it being the fair. Still, I'm aware there's more to this story. So if you want to keep going down the rabbit hole, watch John O'Sullivan's video on the fair. I'll link it in the description. It's a deeper dive into the fair's finances, media access, and the quiet power it holds. Meanwhile, I'll be over here, eating something I probably shouldn't. Oh, also, shout out to Robert Piergovsky, my friend, and the guy that made the music for this video. He's really good. Also subscribe. Yeah, that's all. Also, last thing, thanks to William Jones for getting this really, really cool footage and making me look really cool.